Hey everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Welcome back to another episode of Something Dark, my true crime podcast. I'm back today with another case for you guys. If you have any requests for cases you'd like me to cover, please leave them in the comments below. Unfortunately, I'm still on the web camera. I have my podcast microphone plugged in, so hopefully you can hear me okay, and I promise I will get this figured out in the near future. My filming setup, my recording setup. But with all that being said, I'm going to shut up and we're going to get into today's case. Today we're going to be covering the case of Elisa Lam. She was a Canadian student at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, and her body was recovered from a water tank atop of the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles on February 19th, 2013. She had been reported missing at the beginning of the month, and maintenance workers at the hotel discovered the body when investigating guest complaints of problems with the water supply and water pressure. Her disappearance has been widely reported. Interest had increased 5 days prior to her body's discovery, when the Los Angeles Police Department released a video of the last time she was known to have been seen, and on the day of her disappearance, by an elevator security camera. In the footage, Elisa is seen exiting and re-entering the elevator, talking and gesturing in the hallway outside, and sometimes seeming to hide within the elevator, which itself appears to be malfunctioning. The video went viral on the internet, with many viewers reporting that they found it unsettling. Explanations range from claims of paranormal involvement to bipolar disorder, which Elisa took medication for. It has also been argued that the video was altered prior to release. The circumstances of Elisa's death, once she was found, also raised questions, especially in light of the hotel's history, in relation to notable deaths and murderers. Her body was naked, with most of her clothes and personal effects floating in the water near her. It took the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office 4 months after repeated delays to release the autopsy report, which reports no evidence of physical trauma and states that the manner of death was accidental. To learn more about what happened, we need to go back in time to understand how she ended up at the hotel. On January 26, 2013, Elisa Lam arrived in LA. She had just come by Amtrak train from San Diego and was headed up to Santa Cruz as part of her solo trip around the West Coast. The trip was supposed to be a getaway from her studies at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, where she was originally from. 2 days after arriving in LA, she checked into the Cecil Hotel near downtown Skid Row. She was initially assigned a room on the hotel's 5th floor. However, her roommates complained about her odd behavior, and she was moved to a room of her own after 2 days. Elisa had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression. She had been prescribed 4 medications: Wellbutrin, Lamictal, Seroquel, and Effexor, to treat her disorders. According to her family, who supposedly kept her mental illness secret, Elisa had no history of suicidal ideations or attempts, although one report claimed she had previously gone missing for a brief period. Her family had been worried about her traveling by herself, understandably, but Elisa was determined to go it alone. As a compromise, she made sure to check in with her parents every day of the trip, to let them know that she was safe. That's why her parents got worried when they didn't hear from their daughter on January 31st, the day that she was scheduled to check out of her LA hotel, the Cecil. The Lambs eventually contacted the Los Angeles Police Department, and the police searched the premises of the Cecil Hotel but couldn't find her. Her family would end up flying to Los Angeles to help with the search. Hotel staff who saw Elisa that day said that she was alone. Outside the hotel, Katie Orphan, a manager of a nearby bookstore, was the only person who recalled seeing her that day. She was outgoing, very lively, very friendly. While getting gifts to take home to her family, Orphan told CNN. She was talking about what books she was getting and whether or not what she was getting would be too heavy for her to carry around as she traveled, Orphan added. Police searched the hotel to the extent that they legally could. They searched Elisa's room and had dogs go through the building, including the rooftop. but the canines were unsuccessful at detecting her scent. But we couldn't search every room, Sergeant Rudy Lopez said later. We could only do that if we had probable cause to believe a crime had been committed. On February 6, a week after Elisa had been last seen, the LAPD decided more help was needed. Flyers with her image were posted in the neighborhood and online. It brought the case to the public's attention through media. On February 15th, after another week with no sign of Elisa, the LAPD released a video of the last known sighting of her, taken in one of the Cecil's elevators by a video surveillance camera on February 1st. We're going to talk about this infamous video that drew worldwide attention in the case due to Elisa's strange behavior in it. In the clip, the camera at one of the elevator's rear corners looks down from the ceiling, offering a view not just of its interior, but the whole way outside as well. It's somewhat grainy, and the timestamp at the bottom is obscured. At the start, Elisa enters, wearing a red zippered hooded sweatshirt over a grey t-shirt, with black shorts and sandals. She enters from the left and goes to the control panel, appears to select several floors, and then steps back to the corner. After a few seconds, during which the door fails to close, she steps up to it, leans forward so her head is through the door, looks in both directions, and then quickly steps back in, backing up to the wall and then into the corner near the control panel. The door remains open. She walks into it again and stands in the doorway, leaning on the side. Suddenly she steps out into the hall, then to her side, back in, looking to the side, then back out. She then steps sideways again, and for a few seconds, she is mostly invisible behind the wall she has her back to, just outside. The door remains open. Her right arm can be seen going up to her head, and then she turns to re-enter the elevator, putting both hands on the side of the door. She then goes to the control panel, presses many more buttons, some more than once, and then she returns to the wall she had come into the elevator from, putting both hands over her ears again briefly as she walks back into the section of the wall she had been standing at against before. The door remains open. She turns to the right and begins rubbing her forearms together. This can all be seen through the door, which remains open. After, she backs to the wall again and walks away to the left. The door finally closes. The video was reposted widely, including on the Chinese video sharing site of Youku, where it got 3 million views and 40,000 comments in its first 3 days. Many of the commenters found it unsettling to watch. Several theories evolved to explain her actions. One was that Elisa was getting into the elevator in order to escape from someone who was pursuing her. Others suggested that she might be under the influence of ecstasy or some other party drug, but none were detected in her body. When her bipolar disorder became known, the theory that she was having a psychotic episode also emerged. Others argued that the video had been tampered with before being made public. Besides the obscuring of the timestamp, they claimed parts had been slowed down and nearly a minute of footage had been discreetly removed. This could have been done to simply protect the identity of someone who otherwise would be in the video but had little or nothing to do with the case, or to conceal evidence if Elisa's disappearance and death had been the result of a criminal act. During the search for Elisa, guests at the hotel began complaining about low water pressure. Some later claimed that their water was colored black and had an unusual taste. On the morning of February 19th, Elisa's body was found in one of the 4 1,000-gallon tanks, providing water to guest rooms, a kitchen, and a coffee shop in the hotel. The tank was drained and cut open since its maintenance hatch was too small to accommodate equipment needed to remove Elisa's body. On February 21st, the Los Angeles Coroner's Office issued a finding of accidental drowning, with bipolar disorder as a significant factor. The full coroner's report, released in June, stated that Elisa's body had been found naked. Clothing similar to what she was wearing in the elevator video was floating in the water, coated in a sand-like particulate. Her watch and room key were also found in the water with her. Elisa's body was moderately decomposed and bloated. It was mostly greenish, with some marbling evident on the abdomen and skin separation evident. There was no evidence of physical trauma, sexual assault, or suicide. Toxicology tests, although incomplete because not enough of her blood was preserved, showed traces consistent with prescription medication found among her belongings, plus non-prescription drugs such as Sinutab and ibuprofen. A very small quantity of alcohol was present, but no other recreational drugs. The investigation had determined how Elisa died, but did not offer an explanation of how she got into the tank in the first place. Doors and stairs that access the hotel's roof are locked, with only staff having passcodes and keys. Any attempt to force them would supposedly have triggered an alarm. However, the hotel's fire escape could have allowed her to bypass those security measures if she, or someone who might have accompanied her there, had known. A video made by a Chinese user after Elisa's death and posted to the internet showed that the hotel's roof was easily accessible via the fire escape and that 2 of the lids on the water tanks were open. Apart from the question of how she got on the roof, others asked if she could have gotten into the tank by herself. All 4 tanks are 4 by 8 foot cylinders propped up on concrete blocks. There's no fixed access to them, and hotel workers had to use a ladder to look at the water. They are protected by heavy lids that would be difficult to replace from within. Police dogs that searched through the hotel for Elisa, even on the roof, shortly after her disappearance, did not find any trace of her, although they had not searched the area near the water tanks. Theories about Elisa's behavior in the elevator video did not stop after her death. Some argue that she was attempting to hide from a pursuer, perhaps someone ultimately responsible for her death, while others said she was merely frustrated with the elevator's apparent malfunction. Some proponents of the theory that she was under the influence of illicit drugs are not dissuaded by their absence from the toxicology screen, suggesting that they might have broken down during the period of time her body was in the tank decomposing, or that she might have taken a rare cocktail of drugs that a normal screen would not detect. The autopsy report and its conclusions have also been questioned. For instance, it does not say what the results of the rape kit and fingernail kit were, or even if they were processed. Even the coroner's pathologists appear to be ambivalent about their conclusion that Elisa's death was accidental. Since her death, her Tumblr blog was updated, presumably through Tumblr's queue option, which allows posts to automatically publish themselves when a user is away. Her phone was not found either with her body or in her hotel room. It is assumed to have been stolen at some time around her death. Whether the continued updates to her blog were facilitated by theft of her phone, the work of a hacker, or through the queue option, it is not known, nor is it known whether the updates are related to her death. In September, Elisa's parents filed a wrongful death suit, claiming that the hotel failed to inspect and seek out hazards in the hotel that presented unreasonable risk of danger to Elisa and other hotel guests, and seeking unspecified damages for burial costs. The hotel argued that it could not have reasonably foreseen that Elisa would have entered one of their tanks, and that since it remained unknown how Elisa got into the water tank, no liability could be assigned for failing to prevent that. In 2015, the suit was dismissed. Elisa Lam's mysterious demise was not the first to happen at the Cecil Hotel. In fact, the building's sordid past has earned it a reputation as one of the most supposedly haunted properties in Los Angeles. Since opening its doors in 1927, the Cecil Hotel has been plagued by 16 non-natural deaths and unexplained paranormal events. The most famous death associated with the hotel, other than Elisa's, was the 1947 murder of actress Elizabeth Short, aka the Black Dahlia, who was reportedly seen drinking at the hotel bar just days before her grisly demise. The hotel also hosted one of the country's most notorious killers. In 1985, Richard Ramirez, also known as the Night Stalker, lived on the top floor of the hotel during a monstrous killing spree. The story goes that after a murder, Ramirez would dump his bloody clothes outside of the hotel and return half naked. Back then, the hotel was in such disarray that Ramirez's nude stunt barely raised an eyebrow. 6 years later, another murderous patron moved into the hotel. Australian serial killer Jack Unterweger, who earned the nickname the Vienna Strangler. With such a macabre history, one would think that the Cecil Hotel would soon be condemned, but actually, the old building was recently granted landmark status by the LA City Council. The hotel was given the distinction because of the building's opening back in the 1920s, which is considered to be the beginning of the lodging industry in the US. While an answer to the mystery behind the death of Elisa Lam remains unclear, the obsession surrounding that mystery has remained in the public consciousness ever since. And that brings us to the end of today's case. Thank you so much for sticking with me with this awful webcam quality. I will try my best to get something figured out. If you have any thoughts on today's case, please leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. If you have a case that you'd like me to cover, you can also leave it in the comments below. If you made it this far in the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. You can also click the bell to be notified whenever I post. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video.